Welcome to the Helping Homes Find Their People podcast with the Galluzzo Team, Chris, Elena, and Christo. We are today talking about the first-time home buyers market. What are they going to be expecting now? What do you guys have? Any thoughts?
It's an exciting time. I mean, I remember when Elena and I were young buying our first place, it was kind of similar market where very little inventory. Rates went up a little bit, slightly from the 3 to now 6.5. But when we were younger, we were at 18%, 14%, 15%. So we were looking at credit card numbers and very little inventory at that time. So we're kind of in a similar market. Yes, pricing has gone up, but the rates have stayed consistently 6.5, which is nice now for a young buyer. And they have to just work their skill set and let us represent them in a very powerful way and help them negotiate through this process.
Yeah, how should first-time home buyers be searching for an agent, let's say, in their area? Should they vet? How do they vet? Who do you think they should get in
Well, I
contact
think
with?
they should call us. No, no. But I think how they usually do it is they'll go to an open house and then they usually meet the agents there, and then they form a relationship of some sort. Like they just like you. They know somebody who has a friend who is an agent. Their mom is an agent. Their mother's sister is an agent. Everybody's a damn agent.
Yeah, but then that makes it a little bit. So you want to actually figure out who
Well, the best way to
controls
do
and
it, right?
really
So if
does
you
that
go,
area.
right, because it could get crazy. If you like an area and you know the area that you want to be in, then that's the area you should vet and see who's doing the most business there, who does have the most listings there, who is having open houses, who's allowing access to the house easily, the homes easily. That's always that's a sign of a good agent. And then they can go on websites and see the reviews, Zillow and Google and all of those fun places.
Very true. And I do agree. You can just give us a call
Just give us a call.
and we will be able to
We can
get
do
you in
it.
touch with the professionals that you really
We
need
can
to speak
absolutely
with
do it.
all over the nation.
Otherwise, you might get a person who doesn't really know the area and is just throwing out numbers because they're not, they're just trying to win a bid, which doesn't help you. But we know what we're doing. We know when something's too high, we know something's too low. And honestly, even in other areas on Long Island, if we're not sure of the pricing for those areas, we will call our friends who are in our company and they will guide us so that we are more aware of what the neighborhood is doing.
And once a buyer does find the professional that they want to use, what should their next step be?
I think that their next step would be to send the listings that they like and then let their agent look for more in their areas and their price ranges, and then set up the showings and take them to see the homes. A lot of times they'll want to go to the open houses, which is sometimes a good idea for a first time home buyer so that they can see what they're up against. Because if they go to a home and there's not a lot of people online, then they have an idea of how many people are going to be putting in offers. If they go and there's 40 people on a line, they have to understand that house has been underpriced and it will go for way over asking, and they'd have to be prepared for that. So if they're a 550 buyer and they walk into a 40 line person open house, that's a 650 house automatically. So they have to understand that now that is out of their price range, even though they can still throw spaghetti at the wall and try to get it for hovering around the ask. But when you have a lot of people at an open house and somebody's wants to put in an asking price or under, chances are their bid is not going to make it to the special pile. They're going to just blend in with the rest.
Start strong.
Yeah.
What do you think about escalation clause?
I think that's a great idea, and you've used it in the past. We've
I have,
used
yeah.
it, and escalation clauses are really a fantastic way to potentially beat out other offers
If they're
with a cap.
financially,
Right. So
able to.
explain the escalation clause.
Well, escalation clause for anyone that wants to know, basically when you put the offer in, you are putting an offer in, but you'll cover if someone goes higher than you, you'll cover 2 grand higher or whatever terms you decide on doing, and then you kind of can gauge on how what your limit would be as well. So if you're putting in $800,000 offer, but you'll go up to 850 if anyone goes over your 800,000, and you'll beat them by 2,000. It also helps you get a better idea of where offers are going.
Right.
So
Right, and then they also have to verify the offers that they're receiving. They can't just say they have an offer of $810,000,
yes,
which and then will make our buyer say 815 if he's using $5,000 increments. They'd have to prove that they have the offer, prove that they have a verifiable buyer at 810,000. So it's not just throwing numbers out. And that's why using an escalation clause is a very valuable way to make offers in this world.
I actually used the escalation clause on my condo, and I was going up against a couple of offers and one cash buyer, and I beat the cash buyer, but I also had to work really hard for it. But it
Yes.
was worth it. I love that
Mhm.
condo.
I also feel like when people do win bids, especially first-time home buyers, they're always a little reluctant, but they have to move fast. You have to move quickly in this market because you have all those other people that are going to be breathing down the agent's neck, and they have to present, and they usually show the house until the home is in full contract. So if you have an accepted offer, you need to get the inspection right away. Next day, same day, not the weekend, so that you can be there. You have to get it in right away. And then you have to get contracts sent out right away. So even if you have an inspector who says, I need 24, 48 hours before I'm getting you this report, and you don't want to move on it until you see the report, you have a very high potential of losing the home. So you have to move fast if there's bidding wars going on, which there has been, especially in the lower end market. Anything under 800,000, there's more than 3 buyers for every house, at least.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And the inspectors that are taking 48 hours, they're just not reasonable. If an inspector says he's going to take 48 hours to get you an inspection report, then you should not use that company.
right.
We have a company that we use. They can get it done in literally 1 hour.
They have
Right
the report
after.
in while you're getting into your car, because they do everything from the computer. So they're doing it while they're there. You get to your car and the report is there. It's a beautiful thing.
Right.
All the
Instead of
photos,
24 to
explanation.
48 hours.
Yes.
Because that could be the means of you losing a deal.
Right.
And you also retain all the information that you were just with them talking about,
Right.
and you get it right there, and then you take a look and you don't forget.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's helpful to have a good inspector. It's helpful to move fast. It's helpful to be guided on the process with a good agent, because it is a process.
Right.
You do have to follow
That's
a
the most
protocol.
important part. Utilizing an agent that you can trust, that are committed to you, that can get the job done, that have the trust of other agents in the marketplace, because that's very important. If an agent doesn't trust your offer because they don't know you, or your agent that you're bringing in from whatever area, you're going to end up losing the deal. So it's great to have a talented group like ours that's experts in the industry. We've been in the industry for over 10 years on Christo, and then myself 35 years. My wife has been in over 25 years. So we are true experts in our communities that we work, which is basically the center of Long Island. So we can definitely move the ball forward and get you the deals that you like.
Nice. We'll add for us.
Mm.
And then when it comes to, other offers, styles, I guess there would be like not getting nervous and actually not getting or frustrated when they actually counter. at a ridiculous counter, or if you're putting in an offer that's 100,000 less, you might not even get a counter. You know, what do you think
That's
of
where the
first time both?
explaining comes in.
Yeah, you
But
know,
you know what? I explain it to them before they even see the houses. So when I'm pulling up to a house and I see that there's a line and there wasn't at the last two, I say, this is an underpriced house. This is not going to be the same as the others. So you'll have more of a shot to get the other two than you are at this one. And most of the time, I am absolutely on the money, correct, that it does go way over. Um, we saw it slow down for a little while, but now it's back. So if you have a 600, $500,000 home, it's there's just so many people lining up to get those homes because that's what they can afford.
Well, it used to be the spring market started in March or April, but this year, probably due to COVID, probably due to the media um, scare tactics, that the rates went up, that they doubled. The market is now hot right now. We're looking at June, July, all the inventory coming on the market
Yeah,
right
it
now.
was slow on the upswing.
now I see a lot more inventory coming in, but that's because it's spring and going into summer. Now everyone's
This is
landscaping's
it's late though. That's what
gorgeous.
Dad's saying. It usually starts
Yes,
March.
yeah.
We had a slow and steady climb from January because the weather was nice. So that was a good run because nobody was afraid of anybody slipping on their porches due to the snow and ice. So we did sell a lot in January and February, which is unusual. So that's a lot of inventory that didn't make it to the market because it already sold.
I
But
still feel like there's still
there's
low
a lot
inventory.
still. Yeah, we're still listing. People are still listing 8 or 9 a day in each town,
Yeah.
basically, which is good. It's not great. It's not COVID, but it's good.
Yeah. How do you guys feel before COVID? What do you think the market was before all this hoopla?
I think it was steady. I think it had more of a vibe. I think it had more of a routine. I don't think I think the routine has gone out of everything. I think it's like just whenever anybody has to move or has to feel it, it's like they're not waiting anymore.
I think that a lot of new agents came into the market because it was easy to sell during COVID, and they're learning now that the easiness of sale is evaporated. If you don't have listings, you're not going to make it in this industry. You have a buyer or two, you can sell 2, 3, 4 houses a year. You're not going to be able to sustain yourself. So agents like us that have listings, we're generally running about 5 to 8 listings a month that we control, are going to be in the industry, be able to control a lot of the deals that are going on. We just sold an exclusive that didn't even hit the market. It was exclusive to Compass. And we sold that one. We showed it to one buyer, and no one else wanted to make a bid, and we sold it right away. So we do control a lot of our exclusives. So my impression is, and my expert opinion is, you should find agents like us in the communities we work in that have exclusives, and you're not competing with many people in that regard. We control those listings, so that's very important to note. You have to find the right agent in the community that are experts. Very important.
And another point, find a great attorney as well because you want them to specialize in real estate and not disappear on you.
Yeah.
That's very true too. They have to
People who
be able
answer
to
their
answer
own
the phone.
phones are really much better than trying to track somebody down or talking to an office, and usually not the same person every time. But most of the attorneys are good though. Most of them do have their go-to people, and one person handles it the entire
Yes.
from start to finish. I find I find the attorneys lately that we've dealt with in the past 3 or 4 years have been top notch, honestly, excellent. Only a few in between that don't deliver, but for the most part, everybody has a system, and I think they've got it down. And we do not use anybody who is not a real estate agent. So I guess that might be why we have had no troubles either.
You mean a real estate attorney?
A real
So
estate attorney.
our preferred vendors, and one of them is attorneys, are real estate attorneys.
Yeah. So real estate attorney, that's extremely important because they're not running up to court and they're not, you're their first priority. But that's the reason why I think we've had a smooth transactions for years and years now, because we choose well.
Yeah, and it's good to use a real estate attorney because they know like real estate lingo. A lot of times, sometimes an attorney that doesn't specialize in real estate might not know what's going on in the contract because it
Yes.
could be in the city and they've never been out here before.
We have a deal right now we're working on, selling a vacant lot, 3-lot subdivision in Comac. The attorney is an employment attorney. He had no contract. He had to go ask friends for a commercial, subdividable contract. He didn't know what he was doing. Great guy, personable, wonderful, but not a real estate attorney. Right now, the deal is languishing. It was supposed to close 2 months ago, and because he doesn't know how to clear up problems, and his contract was not accurate, it's causing problems with the sale of the 3-lot subdivision.
And then we have another one, the lawyers from Virginia, and there was an estate that had to be transferred, and the laws there were just so different that he just didn't even know what to do. So literally, we have had this listing lingering. It's over a year and a half, and it can't close. So that's where the attorneys are extremely, 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 extremely important. Has to be a local person who is just a real estate attorney and knows what they're doing.
Yes.
Right, and you also want to, if you sign the contract and the attorney says he's going to mail the contract out with the check, does that mean snail mail? Because we've had checks get lost for 2-3 weeks, and you have to be very careful with that. So our family, I actually went the other night. Christo picked up a check in Garden City, hand delivered it the next morning to the law firm with the contract. So we had it in the lawyer's office within 24 hours.
We
That's
actually
smart.
did a call this morning with a 6 a.m.ers, and they had a really cool guy on this morning. He had, let me get his name. So his name was Bob Dalton, and he started this company called Sackcloth and Ashes. And it began because his mom was homeless, and he felt like he needed to do something to like help the homeless community. So he went to homeless shelters and said, "What is it that you're lacking?" And they told him blankets specifically. So he went and had his friend, he went to like a place and bought cloth, and he had his friend make blankets for him. And he went to stores and was like, "You have to, if you guys sell this, I am going to give 1 blanket for every blanket sold." So it was a 1-for-1. And I think at that point, what was the big one that picked him up?
Theology?
Oh, yes. So anthropology.
Anthropology.
So he had been selling it to all the small stores, and he happened to run into somebody from Anthropology, or Anthropology heard about it, and they thought it was such a great idea that they ordered 60,000 or 80,000 of them. So then he has had to, it just morphed into it. Now he has his manufacturer is in Florence, Italy. The product is gorgeous. He has set up corporate companies and mortgage companies and real estate companies specifically, because they give a lot of gifts, and it comes in a box. So they just signed up with Compass literally 30 days ago. Comes in a beautiful box that says Compass, and you have the blanket inside. And then when the person has the blanket that you've given it for a closing or whatever, they can take that box and now fill it with all the list of things and take it to their local homeless shelter. So it will say, put in here a bottle of water, some food, or whatever the list says.
Yeah.
And they fill the box back up, close it up, and bring it to the homeless shelter themselves. So they are receiving and they can give. And it's just a way to just keep on giving. Yeah, and it's just a great idea. And He's all over the world. He's all over America, and I'm sure he's going to try to make it all over the world. But it's a really good project. I thought that was interesting this morning.
That's
Yeah.
really cool.
He partnered up with Compass. He also partnered up with Bumba, right? The
Oh,
sock.
Bamba
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 socks. So
socks.
now Bamba socks actually donates one sock, one
One
pair of
pair.
socks for every blanket that he donates to. And here's the interesting part. It doesn't go to just one homeless shelter. If you're purchasing it from him on Long Island, the blanket, the extra blanket and socks will go to a homeless shelter on Long Island. So it stays local. So he's from Oregon.
I think Oregon.
So he started this in Oregon. So he was focusing on the homeless shelters within his own community. And so everybody who orders from him can do the same. It's always focused on their own community. So it's very grassroots.
Yeah, we
as
might be
well
going
as
to see him.
international.
Next week, he's going to be in Manhattan.
Yeah.
And we might be going to help him. We're going to check our schedule, and we're going to go to, it's called, it's like Chelsea Homeless Center, and we're going to help distribute.
Yeah.
On
Yeah,
Wednesday.
it's just
That'd be fun.
it was a great idea, and it helps, and it's nice because we can be a part of it just by ordering our parting gifts and
Mhm.
just from him, and we feel like we're giving, not feel like we are helping somebody, and it can morph into other things. Like I said, that Bamba got on board, and so now it's not just a blanket. Now it's a blanket and a pair of socks, and who knows who else jumps on board.
That's a great entrepreneurship story of like
Mhm.
giving back at the end.
Giving back. Yep. I thought that was good. Nice idea.
Nice.
Oh, and just as a side note, so his mom was homeless and literally had like drug problems and all of that. And I think that was like 10 years ago, right? At
No,
least
within the last few
he
years.
started this 10 years ago. No, 9 years ago. Next year is his 10th anniversary. And in the interim, his mom went through troubles, and then he asked her to come to to help with the company kind of thing. And they brought her in, and now she is part of running not the company itself, but one of the homeless shelters. And she's like an advocate on how to not be homeless anymore, and going through all the, helping other people. And she's been sober for 5 years.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's awesome.
He never gave up on her and started it for her. So his heart was in the right, it wasn't about money. It wasn't about, how to make the next dollar. It was how to help his mom.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how you become successful. Yeah, when you have to think about other people.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, you were thinking about it. Are we gonna start a soccer team or something like that? Are we gonna coach soccer?
Well, something to think about. I figured it would be nice to give back and also make a little bit of money training soccer teams again. Christo and I were both very high-level soccer players, and we can train teams. I thought that would be fun since I went to watch my friend's son play the other day, and it was exciting. And it felt good to be on the soccer field again and see the coach, who's a friend of mine, do so well with the team from Comac that he's training. He's improved them in one season so greatly, and it was exciting. So it was something I was thinking about. And then
That'd be fun. I could
thought
do
That's a
you
good
would be
idea.
part
I'll
of
be
it.
your assistant coach,
I'll bring
but
snacks.
it'll be fun. We'll make
Oranges.
it a Comac.
I need the hot soccer mom. That'll
Sliced
be you.
oranges.
You come with the program. Hot soccer grandma.
Grandma.
Well, I haven't
Damn.
coached soccer
Although
in,
it's
like
not technically,
Ugh.
I'm not technically a grandma.
not yet.
Not yet. I've got time.
A dogma.
That would be it.
But
Yeah, I mean, even I'm having a meeting this week to talk to a friend of mine. There's a lot of foreclosures in the market coming on. Whereas, a few years ago, there was very limited foreclosures. There's really hundreds of thousands of foreclosures across the country coming into play. And us as realtors, we're going to try to figure out a way to get those foreclosures to see if we can help sell them to, again, first-time home buyers, investors, And so this Thursday, we're having a meeting with fairly smart real estate commercial friend of mine, and he's going to try to start up a new company that we can be part of and try to help some of these people out that are in, upside down, they're sideways in their mortgages, and make their life easier so that they don't have the stress of trying to deal with a bank. And hopefully we can get in between that and help them, help the bank, help us, become mediators or in the middle or, intermediate and work the deal out with the bank. So
Is
something we're going to meet with.
he creating like something that's a middleman of that?
We're going to be like a middleman, or we could even be the finished thing where we buy the deal. So we might buy somebody's deed that's in foreclosure and they need some support. So we can maybe take their position over and then renegotiate the mortgage with the bank.
For the person, so they
for the
don't have to
person.
lose their house.
Correct. So
Basically, just getting to them before, let's say, like 24 Asset Management or any of those foreclosure companies that really
correct.
specialize in that contacts them.
Right. So save the
That's a
deal
good
before
idea.
it gets to the bank and the bank forecloses. Then they have an 8-year process of cleaning their credit up. We can either short sell the deal for them or do a workout with the bank, or we can take them out totally, buy their deal, buy their deed, buy their position, and take them out so that they're comfortable. They make some money, they move on, their credit's not ruined, and then we could take over the position from there. I did it years ago in Manhattan. We bought a building and we bought the deed from a gentleman, and then we renegotiated the mortgage with the bank, and then we took on ownership position. And everybody was happy in that regard. So something to think about in this market we're coming into. So a short sale is when you owe a bank and potentially other banks money that represents, we'll take a case that we just had recently where we had a $500,000 house. The buyer, the owner of the house, actually owed $1.2 million. So it was a $500,000 house, but the borrower, the owner of the house, borrowed $1.2 million. So there's a shortfall, hence the word short sale. So we went in, we analyzed the deal, we made an offer to the bank that was $530,000. The bank countered at $580,000 because they understood that this was not worth $1.2 million. What happens is most of these banks over the years sell off the positions. They sell off that note. So that note that was originally $1.2 million was with Wells Fargo, but it was sold. It was probably sold 4 or 5 times. The original note was probably sold for 10 cents for every dollar. So instead of $1.2 million, it might have been sold for $120,000. Bank took a write-off. So they wrote that money off with their taxes. So they didn't care about that loan anymore. It was sold to another company. That company then took the loan, tried to work it, realized it wasn't going to work for them, and then they sold it again. And maybe they sold it for $160,000 for a little profit. And so therefore, this original note that was, $1.2 million was sold off to different entities and written off by different entities as a loss. And finally, the deal got sold for in the 500s, which is a crazy different amount, but that's already been changed. Those banks have already written those deals off. The servicing companies have written those deals off. So that's something that short sales are a good way to clean up. You don't get foreclosed on. You let us negotiate the deal, and you move forward with your life a lot sooner than when you wait for a foreclosure, and the foreclosure happens and your credit's ruined for 8 years. In a short sale, I think it takes about a year or two to clean up your credit because it's a workout as opposed to a foreclosure. That's one way. So foreclosure is when you literally wait until the last second, the bank takes over and they foreclose your property. They wipe out your position. They take over the property. You get nothing for it. You end up walking away with very poor credit, and it's not an easy way to go. So we always recommend trying to do a workout. Let us come and help you with this process. It's not always easy. It's frustrating. It takes a lot of time and effort. but definitely look for an expert to help you with the process.
And we've dealt with like all those companies before, 24 Asset Management, even Wells Fargo, Chase,
Yep.
things like that.
Yes.
All right, that was Helping Homes Find Their People podcast with the Galluzzo team, Chris, Elena, and Christo. Thank you guys for listening, and I hope it was very informative for you. You can give us a like, subscribe, and follow. Also, give us a call. We're only a phone call away if you have any questions or want to sell or buy in Long Island.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This is great. Love it.